Welcome back to my second video of Scraptastic Crafts. As I promised, I'm coming back with a continuation of the scrap cards that I made. I actually continue to make more strip little cards of the different colors. I stuck to spring colors because I realized that I needed to make some Easter cards, and I also needed to make some thank you cards for gifts that were received for my birthday, especially for two little girls in my husband's second grade classroom who made a birthday card for me. So I thought it'd be sweet to give them a card back, thanking them for their generosity and thinking of me. So I have the beautiful colors in front of me. I have some of my bits of fussy cutting, a free digital that was last year's digital from Mindless Crafting, which I absolutely love. We are a bunny family. We have two house bunnies that roam our house free of a cage, and they are the most entertaining things in our lives. We love them tremendously, even though there are holy terrors sometimes. So I have this. I also brought out my container of scrap pieces to show you kind of what I do when I go and get scraps from a store. We have a lot of craft recycling stores in our area that sell bags of scraps or pieces of scraps and everything. So the first thing I do when I go through the bags, if there's a chopped up piece of paper, I try to get layer pieces for cards. So I try to cut them down so they're easy grab for background pieces, all with the measurements of what layer they would be. Like this is a 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So I know that I can use this as my one layer. And then I have some bases cut, which are 5 1/2 and 4 1/4. But they go down from there. So once I get those big pieces, then that's when they start going into my smaller scrap bins or used for other things. But I like to keep this around to help me out with bases and different things like that. So as you see here, I do have the little bunny here, some little Easter eggs and different sizes. And these are all digitals. The only digital that I know that the place from is for the freebie from Mindless Crafting. At this point, I do believe that it is no longer in their freebie area. I think it is in their collective, which they have in their store for a couple bucks, where you can get all the past ones and then you'll receive all the upcoming ones as well. But that's an awesome little printout that I like to use. So for card bases, I even kind of use scraps and card bases. When I go to the stores, I often find packs of paper that are marked down for great prices, and I snatch them up. As you can see, I got this Hammermill cover stock. So it's 67 pounds, not the heaviest, but still not the worst. And they only had it for $1.99 for a brand new pack of this cream color. So I fold these in half, hot dog style, and then I will cut them in half to become card bases. It's still a little flimsy than some people like for cards, but as you start adding layers to cards, this is actually one that I put together. You get a little bit more stiffness or heaviness on that, so it's not as flimsy. So the more layers you add, the stiffer it will become, but also doesn't add too much more bulk as you go by. But this is my idea for a card, using both the strip card very simply and another card. And some bunny loves you, so this will probably be my Easter card. I am working on some way of signing my cards in the back, because I do feel that you do need to sign your artwork Right now I just have Made with Love, and I'll probably sign my name to that, which I did hand color that as well. But that's my fun little stamp that I love myself, because once again, we are a bunny family. So I do love using bunny items in my crafting. So let's create another one of these Some Bunny Loves Yous. I just have to decide what color I want to use. I'm going to use another bunny from the Mindless Crafting free printable. And I think this time I'll use a pink, since there's a lot of pink in there as well. I could do one of the zigzags, or I could do one of the straights. I'll do one of the straights this time, and I think I'm going to use that one. As you can see, it is very addicting. I did these over the past couple days. I dumped out every bin and took all the small strips out, hoping to use them all. Some of them I struggled with. The yellows, or sorry, the oranges I did struggle with a little bit. I didn't want to put them on the black background. I did put them on yellow card, just because I thought the orange and black looked too Halloweenish, which I did not want that theme on my Easter cards. So that went on yellow, and I don't have a whole lot of orange paper, so I guess I don't use a whole lot of orange. The most strips that I have color of was the blue and the green. Apparently those are my strong suits and colors, but we use what we have, right? So picked my pink. I do have a card base cut already. So this is just a standard 5.5 by 4.25 start base. I can pick a layer to go on first, which, since I have these already cut, sorry, I had some purple pulled out for earlier. Put those back in here. Let's find a pink that coordinates well with both the stripes and the bunny. And sometimes you won't find the perfect, and you'll have to cut something else or pull something else out from your stock. I personally think that is too bright, so that's not something that I want to go with. I'm kind of liking that because of the polka dots. Still don't want to be too busy, but I don't know. Let's keep looking. Might go with that. I like that much better. So we're going to put that back in. And we'll put down this base piece. Now I still didn't get around to filling my glue. There's just some things in crafting that we keep telling ourselves, and then we forget until we go to use it and remember, oh yeah, I was supposed to do that. Now I think I'm going to round the corners. And this is just a round punch. I don't know where I got it, but it's a 3-corner punch with millimeter rounds on it. That one might be too small. I think I'm going to stick with this. Is the 10 millimeter is the one that I prefer the most to use, so I think I'll just stick with that one. It just finishes the edges off, which make it really nice. Kind of softens the edges a little bit, so it's not as rough. Get rid of these little tiny itty bitty pieces here. We also have the light side. I think I'm going to stick with the stripes right now. Now I do use the Bearly Art glue. I love the Bearly Art glue. I also do use the glitter glue And I think I made a mistake in my first video by saying I used the art glitter glue, and I was using Bearly Art. I do use both. I think they both have very similar abilities. The only reason why I have the Bearly Art up here instead of the art glitter glue is because this is my upstairs in my house. My husband adores keeping the house cold year round, and especially during the winter, my upstairs does get colder than the rest of the house, and the art glitter glue is very sensitive to temperature changes. So that one, the art glitter glue, I call my downstairs glue, while my Bearly Art is my upstairs glue. So that's the only reason why that's up here instead of the art glitter glue. I know it's kind of silly that I have upstairs and downstairs glue, but you work with what you got. And as I said, I love both of them. And the Bearly glue I bought for myself for the first time. The second time I did get it as a gift from my husband. So I continue to use that. The art glitter glue I did get from the Mindless Crafting stamp store when they had a sale, just to try it, and I love it just as much. But as I said, it's one of those things that you use where it best fits your home. So I think our bunny is going to look better on some black, just to bounce it off there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back her on one of the cards. It's the same size card as what that piece is. As you can see, I did print on both sides because my printer was having a little bit of an issue on this side. So I just reprinted on this side, which after I cleaned my head. So this was much better. This one has a couple lines going through it where my printer heads were not firing as they were supposed to. But I have a Eco Tank. I don't know what model it is. It's a lower end model. I couldn't justify spending a whole lot of money. I've just recently gotten into digitals. Still not a huge fan of them. I believe they all have their purpose and place and time to use. I still prefer the hand stamping and the hand crafting the items, but Bill and Tracy have taken me to the dark side a little bit of the digitals, so I have got a couple sets for them, and I figure if I've purchased them, I might as well use them. And then I wanted a quality printer to actually print them out with spending an arm and a leg, because I tell you, those inkjets cartridges cost a fortune. Now, I've had my Eco Tank for about a year. Oh, excuse me, tickle in my throat. I did purchase it online. I was looking at some in stores, but when I saved up enough money, none of the stores were running sales, so the only place I could get a sale was when I looked online, and I found an awesome sale of the Eco Tank that I have, which in one of my future videos, I'll have to grab the number and tell you which model it is. But it was down for around $120, and they had an offer for free shipping, and I had a few gift cards for the store that I found it at, so I went for it. So overall, I got it for less than $120. Came with its first refill of ink, which, as I said, I've had about a year now, and it's only about a quarter of the way down. And I just mentioned to my husband the other day that I know about how much I print it, because I went through my first ream of paper, which was 250 sheets. So I went through 250 sheets of fully printed items, some black and whites, but that they were done on lesser paper, so that would even make the increase, or the number increase, a little bit. and for only using a quarter of the tank and having to clean my printer heads 3 times during that time because I hadn't printed in a while and I had to clean the heads. But that's an awesome deal. I know if I printed that much with my old printer, I would have paid probably over $200 in ink cartridges, because for our old printer it was over $50 for one ink cartridge. So on this, and I should have done the bunny first, but that's okay. I think the darkness is fine on that. With this, since you have different color papers, and it may not bother you, and you don't have to do this next step. It is definitely not mandatory in any way, shape, or form. I'm just going to take a little bit of ink on a dauber and ink the edges. Kind of covers up the core of the papers that were used, blending into the background paper that was used, and kind of gives a weathered look to the outside of the edge, or shadow to the outside edge. As I said, this is not necessary. As I said, I forgot to do it on the bunny, but it's definitely something that if you want to try, go ahead. If you don't, you do you. And that's just my dauber along with my Mindless Crafting Hybrid ink, which I do love. Put that to the side. So now I have my 2 cards here, and I can decide of how I would like to lay them out. And I do like that pink. That does make me happy with that pink. I liked the purple too, but I like the pink as well. So I'm going to put this down first. I do a lot of things on cards, more of what I like to call wonky or not straight, just because I'm not good at putting things on straight. And if you put it on purpose on an angle, it's masterful. If you put it on crooked when it's supposed to be straight, it's a mistake. And in my book, there's really no mistakes in creating something. It just makes it unique and one of a kind. But once again, you do you. You feel your comfort level and what you need to do for you. Now, because there is another layer here, if you put this down flat, you're going to create a ridge here in your bunny. So you could do one of 2 things. You could put a couple pieces of cardstock, like scrap cardstock here, to raise it up, or you can even use craft foam to raise it up, which I think I'll be using some craft foam squares if I can find them here on my table. They were just here the other day, so I know they're here. There they are. Now these are just ones that I found at the dollar store. They're great. You can't always find them. But for $1.25, they are great little tools to have. Yeah, if you buy bulk, you can probably get them cheaper somewhere else. I know you can also buy it in solid rolls where you have to cut it, and then you have to worry about sticky scissors and how you're going to clean your scissors off, which is always a pain in the tuchus. But many options. And once again, if you don't have the foam, just take scrap pieces of cardstock and layer it up. For something like this, I would probably layer up with 2 to 3 layers of cardstock behind here to get enough height so that that doesn't create a crease in your focal image of your bunny. But if you have it, use it. The one thing that I like about crafting, as I said before, is that there are no wrongs. It's just how you use your creative power. Makes it unique. And you don't always have to have all of the fancy things that big time creators have. If you have paper, you use paper and you find ways to create with your paper. That's, as I said, that's the one thing nice about creating. You can be creative with anything. So I did pre-stamp out some of the Some Bunny Loves You. So I'm just going to cut a little bit off of that. As you can see, I'm not a huge measure everything person. I kind of craft the way that some people cook. I craft with my heart. And if it feels right, then it takes shape. And if it goes wrong, you start over. But even though that you may not like it every time or every single thing that you make, doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's not your favorite. But it could be someone else's favorite. I've had plenty of crafts that I did not prefer myself. But when I took it over to someone else or gave it to the person who was receiving it, they absolutely adored it. And I didn't have the heart to tell them that I hated it. So, you just never know. The one thing that I like about this corner rounder is that when you do it on a small piece like this, you end up creating an oval. Now, it's a little bit of a wonky oval, but it's still a little bit of an oval. Without it having a die, without having to trace out, created it kind of for you. And then you still have the same angles as you would for that. So I'm just going to take a piece of my scrap black that I have in my scrap folder over there, or my scrap bucket over there on my desk of bigger scraps. And don't laugh. Yes, I have probably about 15 containers of scraps, ranging anywhere from big scraps to medium scraps to small to extra small. I'm very bad at disposing of things. I've been trying to get better at it and letting go of things. But when you've been doing it your whole life, it's a hard habit to break. But sometimes something's got to give, and then you become so overrun by bits and pieces everywhere that you just finally learn to let go of some things. And you're no worse off for it. And for the most part, you'll find a way to accumulate more. As I said before, I'm very fortunate to live in an area where we have, within an hour drive of my home, where I live near Reading, Pennsylvania. So within an hour drive, I can be at 2 different art recycle stores. We actually have Art of Recycle in Ephrata, and we have Lancaster Creative Reuse, which I don't know the town that they're in now because they just recently got a new building, which is awesome, by the way. I wish I lived closer, or wish I wasn't so scared of driving on highways, but I can only get there when my husband can take me because I am terrified of highways. Which is funny because I've never really had a poor experience on a highway. I just don't prefer it. So I have that there, which I kind of want to pull pink into this as well to kind of give it another, I think I'm going to put another layer of pink behind it so it has some pink in the saying as well. But the art recycle stores that I spoke about, they do thrive on donations from the community. which being in Pennsylvania, we are a very crafty community. A lot of Amish and Mennonite around, so scrapbooking is still a bigger thing in this area. Not as big as it used to be, but still a little bigger than some areas. Quilting is a huge thing. Quilting and sewing. As I said in my first video, I do want some of those roots to come out in what I'm going to do for future videos. I absolutely adore quilts, especially the meaning behind some quilts, but the artistry behind them, the time that goes in behind them, people just don't see their worth. Even the scrap or junk crazy quilts that are made from old clothing bits and pieces are just overflowing with love from the people who created them. I can remember being a toddler. My grandfather was a minister, so we were very active in our Lutheran church. And our church had a sewing circle. And they would do clothing drives for people in the community. And the clothing that, if it came in and it was too far to be salvaged or have a child wear or an adult wear, they wouldn't just throw out the article of clothing. It would go to the sewing circle. And the sewing circle had all walks of life, all stages of creativity and abilities, and everybody did a different job. And I was one of the youngest ones of 3 and 4 years old, going with my mom and my grandma. Once they got the clothing that might be too far gone to be worn as actual clothing anymore, one group of ladies would take all the clothing and put it through washing and drying. I'm just going to lay this down flat because it has enough dimension on the 3 layers here, so I'm just going to put this down flat. So we make sure that everything is washed and dried. And then after that takes place, there's another station where the people would start doing destruction. They would take off all the buttons and take off the cuffs, take off the collars, anything that would stop the fabric from laying flat. And then they would lay the fabric flat, and the next people would iron out the clothing to make it flat, and then they would pass it on to the next ladies, who would then actually cut the scraps to the sizes that they needed. And once they got the size they needed, the next group of people put them in color order, and the next group of ladies would actually sew them in strips, and so on and so on. Being a kid that grew up on her mom's lap, I wasn't allowed to touch any of the machines just because of my tender age, but I still was allowed in the room if I behaved. So my job was to go around the floor and pick up pins and needles that would fall on the floor and take them to the ladies at the pinning station and different places like that. And soon I found out that I could collect pins and then bribe the ladies to give me the buttons that they were taking off of clothing, which started my lifelong journey of collecting buttons. And I do have a 5-gallon pickle jar of buttons collected from when I was 3 and 4 years old, which are still my favorite things to run my hands through. A lot of people have asked if they would be able to go through my buttons and take a look to see if there's anything that was worth anything and offer me money, and I refuse each time because that is just my happy place, and the memories that come with it are priceless to me. So at this point, I'm going to add a little bit of blings. I did get these little jewels. This was at one of my Dollar General type stores. It was actually called the Dollar Zone. It's a very eclectic store. $1.25 isn't bad for all these jewels. Now they have glue or adhesive on them. I never trust that glue anyways, so I'm still going to put some stronger glue underneath. Half the time when I pull them off of here, I rip off the glue anyways, and it stays behind. So I think I'm gonna go with this lighter pink, hopefully without ripping off everything in its track. But that's just a little bit insight to where my love of sewing, crafting, collecting goes, all the way back to sewing circles, which I dearly miss. I wish that our church would still have the sewing circles. The community that was built around that seemingly small event was amazing, and I think unfortunately is lost to our modern day standards. Okay, I usually don't use these pickers, but I'm going to try using this picker upper since I bought it. It's just a wax pencil that's supposed to help you pick them up and put them down. I used a little bit too much glue. I wasn't watching how much came out on there, but this too shall pass. Can't change it now. Get as much off as we can. As you see, this one has a little bit of the adhesive still stuck to the back of it. It sticks out on the side, and I'm not particularly fond of that either. So I'm going to try to see if I can rip that off. Oop, yep. Got that ripped off then. But now it won't release from my finger. Well, this is becoming an adventure. There we go. So we have those there. So just press them down to make sure that we have those firmly adhered. Pick away. So there we have it. Card made from the strip cards that we made. Similar, but still different. I think they're both cute, and they'll both make great little Easter cards for somebody in my family. And as I said, I tried to get out that adhesive, and it did stick to me, and now it's stuck to my card. There we go. Now that's off. But many different options. As I said, many different colors here. One thing that I was looking at to use was I picked up these vintage sticker packs, of course, of bunnies. Very cute, adorable bunny stickers. But I'm not one for just plopping an image down. Plus they're a little big for the size card that we want. So what I ended up doing is I did put one down on some of the paper and then fussy cut around it. So I don't know if this is going to work or not, but we can always try it out with one of our backgrounds. Let me get a card base here. I'm going to go with the off-white again. Even though that has schmutz on the top there, since I'm going to probably be putting down a layer, I don't think the schmutz is going to show that much. I think we'll be fine. So let's see if we can find a color that we want. There's purples, yellows, a little bit of greens. I'm thinking a light green. I like that. I like that light green with it. A little corner's wonky there, so I think I'm gonna round the corners again. I think I'm gonna try rounding 3 corners and seeing where that takes me. You never know until you try. As I said in my first video, sometimes you don't have that creative feeling, but you still want to craft something. I've been in that position quite often recently. And that's when I found myself coming up here and making those corner pieces or the scrap pieces. That's making it very easy for me to pull a card together very quickly, since that was already half done for me, which is really nice. This cardstock is a little thicker, so it's giving me a little bit of pushback on when I went around my corners on here. And you don't have to have a fancy corner rounder. If you wanted a rounded corner, by all means, get out some change from your pocket and trace a line and cut around it with your scissors. It's fun to have tools, but not a necessity to have them. For the longest time, I didn't have them in my arsenal, for lack of a better word. I didn't have anything like that in my arsenal of tools, and I was just fine without them. Of course, now that I have them, I want to continue using them because I did pay for them, and you do want to get as much as you can out of the worth of purchasing an item. So I brought out my green Phantom out to see which ones I want. I'm kind of leaning towards the mint here with the flowers, which will pull out the flowers in here. These would have been good if I did something for St. Patty's Day. But I think I'm going to go with the mint ones. But now, do I want to use the Whopper Jaw one or just the lines here? As I said, you don't have to be in love with every card you make. Heck, you don't even have to be in like with it. There might be someone out there that totally adores it, even if you totally don't. So don't be afraid to try different things. You may not like it and say, I'm not going to do that again, but you may love it and say, I'm going to try it again. Trying is half the battle. Let me do this and see how this one goes. I kind of like the one with the zigzaggies better. We're going to go with that. I totally forget which way I had that. If it's wrong, it's wrong. As I see on that one, I did not ink the edges on those. Didn't really change the effect much. As I said, that's a personal choice to do that or not. Now with the chick, I think I'm gonna raise her up a little bit too. I am a very frugal crafter too. As I said, I do go to the art recycle stores. I shop my Goodwills and my thrift stores. Even though I haven't been hitting Goodwill lately, sometimes in my opinion, which may not be the favorite opinion, the Goodwill of others who are giving their donated items are being taken advantage of by the prices that they're charging at the Goodwill. And I know that they do have to pay their employees, and there's a whole bunch of things on the back end, but when you see the reports at the end of the year and their corporates are making more and more every year, and the people who are in need of the items are getting less and less, it's just very sad. So I a lot of times will focus my thrifting on smaller local thrift shops which give back to our community. And I think my dollars are a little bit more well spent in those areas. Actually, this year, 2025, I am not doing much shopping or thrifting because I am on a craft no-buy. I did take a break for March since it was National Craft Month and my birthday. So I did take a break from my no-buy so I could splurge on a few items. Unfortunately, I didn't do, well, maybe fortunately, I didn't do as much as I thought I would. So I guess I had enough. But I am back on my no-buy again, so no thrift stores. So another thing I do quite often is I will get these nail gems that you see, like this was at the $1.25 store. If they're good enough for nails, they're good enough for my crafts too. And these have beautiful green ones, also have some pink ones, some of these blue ones. I don't think the purple, maybe I'll do a combination of the green and the purple to pull out the purple here. Yeah, let's see. Oops. Apparently there are some bugle beads in there as well as some flat blacks. There we go. Now we have a flat back there. But you never know where you're going to find something that will work with your crafts. You have to be open to everything and anything. You have to think outside your box sometimes, or think outside your creativity. Not everything comes packaged with pretty little bows and says, use me, use me. So that one doesn't seem to have any color. I'm just wondering if it's, nope, it just doesn't have any backing on it, so it looks like it will take over the color that whatever it's put on. goal for today to use that one. Maybe I should get back out the jewel picker. Because this wax pencil is actually from a nail, for a nail as well. That I figured that, well, you know, if the nail salon is using it to pick up gems, then, or move gems around, why can't I in my crafting? Okay. Now they do say a rule of thumb for creating is to have odd numbers. I don't follow many rules when it comes to creating, because I say whatever floats your boat is fine with me. But it kind of is true. Your eyes are drawn and follow the flow of odd numbers. Oops. So I do try to stick to the odd number rule when it comes to putting gems on. But once again, if that's not your jam, you do you. And whatever makes you happy, whatever makes your creativity pop, your card pop. This is your oyster. You can do what you want with it. Have to be careful when it comes to bling though, because I do like bling. Putting bling on cards makes me happy. So I probably put more than what I should on cards, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's an odd number. Continues to flow around the page. Put a word there. Yeah, I think we'll stop there with the bling. Put these away. These containers always seem to not want to close once you open them. I don't know what's up with that. But I've had more than one pop open as I'm putting them away for storage. And I swear that I've closed the lid, but they don't seem to want to stay closed. So still coming up with a method for keeping them shut without popping open, but we will see. As of right now, I have no solution other than to press hard. But, oops. See, as it just pops open as I move it around. Oh, we'll fool with that later. But as you can see, that created a nice little bit of glitz to there. And if you do that to every card, you probably have a couple dozen, if not more, cards in there of jewels to gem. I keep saying I'm going to mess with that later, and I keep going back to it because it annoys me. Okay, so now don't think I have any of my sentiment stamps out here. I do have my one from the Somebody Loves Ya. I don't know. Kind of want a sentiment on there, but not feeling that one right now. I know that's going to be hard to see for you guys, but that's the one that I put on the back. I'll have to look around for a sentiment for this one and maybe put something on there. But I don't think that's bad. Let me put my pin in here before I forget to do that. I do want to get one of those fancy pins for that. I see them everywhere and I just haven't broken down to get one for myself yet. But here are the cards that I made with these scrap backgrounds. I think they're just stinking cute. Yeah, definitely giveable to somebody and receivable. But give it a try. If you think that you might want to try something like this, give it a try and let me know how it turns out. But until next time, I'll see you guys later. Have a good rest of your week.